A very warm morning to everyone. Holistic development centered around quality education is the need of the hour. Today's day is very special as 10 years ago, on 5th September 2014, we at CTES College of Architecture started our first year in architecture education, and there has been no looking back since then. With an enthusiastic and extremely approachable faculty, our college has been spreading its wings steadily, making a mark as a top notch college for the architecture. Not just for BArch, but also for MArch in project management in 2019. All this surely calls for a celebration. Respected Governing Council members, our guests, faculty members, and students, we take immense pride in welcoming you all to the 11th Foundation Day of CTS College of Architecture.
Any auspicious event starts with the lighting of the lamp, a ritual that invokes positive vibes and contributes to the happy atmosphere around. I now call upon our chief guest, Architect Malak Singh Gill, our Governing Council Vice President Shri Mahesh Mahapankar Sir, our General Secretary Subodhacharya Sir, I think he is not there, our management dignitaries Shri Deepak Chauhan Sir, Dr. Maya Pahirihar Malhotra Ma'am, Architect Purnima Raje Ma'am, our ex-director Anil Nagaraj Sir, and Principal Alka Tawri Ma'am to light the lamp.
Let's enhance the divine and beautiful beginning with our cultural session by performance from our final year student Rai Rane, who will be performing a classical piece.
गणनायकाय गणदैवताय गणाध्यक्षाय धीमहि गुणशरीराय गुणमण्डिताय गुणेशानाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि गानचतुराय गानप्राणाय गानान्तरात्मने गानोत्सुकाय गानमत्ताय गानोत्सुकमनसे गुरुपूजिताय गुरुदैवताय गुरुकुलस्थायिने गुरुविक्रमाय गुह्यप्रवराय गुरवे गुणगुरवे गुरुदैत्यकलक्षेत्रे गुरुधर्मसदाराध्याय गुरुपुत्रपरित्रात्रे गुरुपाखण्डखण्डकाय गीतसाराय गीततत्त्वाय गीतगोत्राय धीमहि गूढगुल्फाय गन्धमत्ताय गोजयप्रदाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि. Thank you.
Thank you, Rai, for that beautiful performance.
I would now like to invite Professor Anupita Surve ma'am to address the audience with a welcoming note.
Good morning, everyone. Today is a great occasion for the CTES College of Architecture that we have gathered to celebrate the 10th years of completion and the 11th foundation day of our institution. On this wonderful day, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all. My first and foremost duty, on behalf of the faculty members and staff and students community, I would like to welcome and salute all the visionary trustees and all founder members of our institute who founded this school. It is my great pleasure to welcome our honorable guest, architect Malak Singh, who despite his busy schedule agreed to grace this occasion. I also extend my greetings to all the dignitaries present here. I would also like to welcome students. You can clap for yourself. Faculty, staff, who form the most important part of the institute. It has been said and believed since long that for a great work to be done, it is important to have right foundation. And today, our institute entered the another successful year. Let me first wish you all a very happy Foundation Day. As we are all celebrating completion of 10th year of this growth and entering the 11th year blessed with great aspiration to celebrate the growth and success of our school. This event is also a part of our ongoing Samman Shrinkla, which aims to create collaborative and inclusive space for enriching dialogue. It's a series, Shrinkla. Continuing this tradition, we proudly present Samvad Shrinkla 11 with architect Gill as our esteemed speaker. Here, I would like to recollect a quote from US President John F. Kennedy's first address to his fellow citizens. Ask not what country can do for you, but ask what you can do for the country. On this propitious and encouraging occasion, it is good to ponder on what we can do for the institute, we as in faculty and students and perhaps the management, and for its betterment. If everyone assumes his or her responsibility then it won't be long to turn this college into a great architecture institute in the years to come. We are grateful for the institute which has assisted the students in exploring the multitude of skills and achieving higher career goals. We are also thankful for the teachers who help finding what students are passionate about, push them to seek newer heights and alter their personalities. The institute has given very important lesson that the most sought after and difficult goals can be achieved with focus, perseverance and confidence. Our guest of honor, Malak Singh, his journey exemplifies this path of perseverance and achieving the desired goals. His valuable speech will inspire us in determining and shaping the future directions and teaching learning of architecture studies, especially in the context of climate change and urgent needs of employing sustainable green practices in architecture and design. Once again, welcome and congratulations to all of us. Hope you all will have lots of fun while we knuckle down with your studies. So wish you all a happy Foundation Day. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I would now like to invite our principal, Professor Alkatauri ma'am, to address the audience with a few words about today. Looking forward to our progress.
Very good morning to everyone. Respected Mapankar sir, Deepak sir, Maya ma'am from our management, and architect Malak Singh as the chief guest of this thing, Purnima Raje ma'am also, who has been guiding us, Professor Nagarath, who is founder principal and ex-director of this college, who has taken a lot of work towards, bringing the college to a certain level. Today, when we are gathered here to celebrate the 11th Foundation Day, and you look back, maybe sir will look back and realize that, we were so small earlier that we could fit in a studio number 1. So the second year student will know that that was the strength of this college on our third Foundation Day. So from that, we have grown multiple times, and now we have reached here. Today, when we talk about architecture education, I want to discuss something other than what we generally talk about. So, in your mind also, don't you think that architecture is becoming an elitist education? Elitist means we speak English, we don't speak the language of the land in both ways. The language from our mouth and the language of architecture also. So when we have prominent architect like Malak Singh with us, who is paving this way of designing buildings which are rooted in the land, that's where we have to start thinking that where are we going? Architecture as a profession, where is it going? What do you think? Why we have become so urban centric in our education? Do we ever think about rural architecture? Do we ever give any kind of attention to rural architecture? Is it there or is it not there? Constructing only tall building is the goal of each architect. I'm also guilty of that. I've constructed the 55, the tallest building of India also, and I used to feel very good. But when I look back now, I do feel that architecture needs to start looking at rural architecture also. What kind of material, what kind of locally rooted technologies can be done? And that's why we find that, this elitist approach towards architecture is what is harming us also. The colleges which open in the rural belt are closing shops because they're not getting a student. Now imagine a student who comes from a rural area and he is studying these, high-tech materials, ACP, which he has not seen. But then he learns about it. When he goes back into practice, he starts using the same material. And that's why our rural area is converting into dirty cities. We are using concrete, we are using ACP, we are using glass cladding, we are doing everything that is not desirable in our rural areas also. So this urbanization or the urban context with which architecture profession is growing, we need to start thinking that why urbanization, why ruralization is not important. So if you start looking at Southeast Asia or Asian context, you will find that we have very strong urban and rural division, which is not possible in the areas like America or Europe. Rural is still, a very small percentage, but we have large percentage of rural areas, which are converting into now urbanic kind of construction. So someday, maybe someone will take up this note and someone will say that we need to divide architecture education into two parts. Having understood this urbanic vision and going back into rural areas to practice something is not required. You go back into rural area and then you start practicing what is done in towns and cities, and you know that cities are destroyed beyond anything. We don't have proper air, we don't have proper road. Infrastructure is another thing. So infrastructure, why? Because we know the technology of urban infrastructure is getting developed in the western part of the world. And this technology, once they are done with it, where will they apply it? So it comes to the second world. And that's why we have these metros and monorails and this and that. And you see a lot of urban infrastructure getting developed. So someday we need to start thinking about it. And today it's a good occasion when architect Malak Singh will be talking about his buildings. I feel glad that, someone who is inspiring people, who is inspiring a student to work on local technology, local material, and low tech designs. So everything that is scalable is not good. Sometimes we have to build low also and then do good architecture. That's all from my side. Back to you, Avni.
Thank you, ma'am, for your valuable words. I would now like to invite Professor Anil Nagaraj sir, our founding principal of CTS College of Architecture, to speak about the beginnings of our college and its progress over time.
Good morning. It's such a pleasure to be here, 10 years after we started. And I'm so happy to see that so many of us who were there at that time are with us today. Our General Secretary, Mr. Mapankar, who was such a force behind this. We also miss Mr. Ramurthy, who also was a great pillar of strength and inspiration. And we had a committee of Deepak Chauhan, Maya Malhotra, and Subodh Acharya, who gave us so much support as we grew slowly. When we took baby steps, and we required so much support, and we got it. And we also had, right from the beginning, Purnima Raje. I'm glad now she's part of the committee, but she was always present whenever we asked her. So it was, and of course, Mr. Radhesham Pandey, he was always a part of the committee at that time, and I acknowledge his presence and his contribution. Also, those people are not here, so all the committee members, you know. So it was very nice to start and work with them. So architect Malak, this is the kind of background that we started with. And I still remember the puja we had in studio number 1. And we were just 40 students. And since we started late, all the 40 students are those, who had to come to our college. Hmm? And we took that as a great opportunity, and we tried to create a learning environment which would be very, supportive of young professionals, so that people who spend 5 years here can become, contributing professionals to society. We try to have a good mix of theory and practical knowledge, skills, and also try to generate wisdom. We had a mission statement where we said that we want our work, our thinking to be contextual, looking at the social context, the economic context, the environmental context. So all these things are very important to us. We looked at also being one of the first few colleges in the eastern suburbs, and to set a path. So we had many, many aims and ambitions, and we tried to, build up on that. We are very happy that we had got very good staff who also aligned with us, and we're also very happy that a few years later, Professor Alka Tauri joined us, and later she took on as the principal. I see many faces from the early days, Tanvi and Mitali and Pooja and Kirti, Anju, so many people. I'm so glad, that they are still continue to be here. I don't know if I missed out anybody, but it was wonderful having all of them with a similar outlook and trying to forge ahead, to make a mark. We are very happy that we've had many successes. Most of the students who have passed out are doing extremely well. There have been a lot of award winners off and on. We are also declared among the top colleges of the city, and also winning many accolades in competitions. We've had some very signature projects like study of the step wells. There are many things. I won't be able to recount all of them. And the publication of the step wells has been largely appreciated. That became like a signature project. So there are many things like that. But we cannot rest on our laurels. And as we complete a very important first decade of our life over here, and we enter the 11th year, we need to rededicate ourselves and see how we can, build professionals who can contribute to society, how to build people who are thinking people, who are people who can understand what's happening around. Architecture is not just, designing buildings. It goes much beyond that. It is also a public service. It's also a political activity. It's also an economic, realization of things. So there are so many aspects, and we need to have that wide vision and see how we can take it forward and how we can contribute. Architecture can never be an elitist profession. It is meant for people. It has to be. So you have to work for the people. You have to identify with people. You've got to find out what their mindset is and see how to respond. We cannot live in ivory towers and design buildings. We have to really understand what is the need of people. And we also have to politically work our way out, because we just blame politicians for ruining the environment. But can we also form our own pressure groups, improve our own understanding, our own convictions to the extent that we can, say something, take a stand, you know. So much happens in the city, but how many architects take a stand on it and express themselves? So let us rededicate ourselves again to our social, economic, contextual, environmental concerns. Let us look at our vision statement and see how we can take it further and have a brighter and brighter tomorrow. I thank all the past students who have added to the glory, and all the present students and all the future students who are going to take this forward and make the CTS College of Architecture a great place, a place which is, people will reckon with and respect. Okay. So with that, I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Before we go ahead, I would like to welcome our Governing Council Vice President Radhesham Pandey sir to our Foundation Day. I would now like to invite Dr. Maya Parihar Malhotra ma'am to narrate the journey of our college, of how far it has come and the efforts that have led our college to where it is today. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, my fellow colleagues from the Governing Council, teachers, students. I think she said I will narrate the journey, but the journey I think has already been narrated by others, and I know you all are really, really anxious so that we can listen to architect Malak Singh Gill on his thoughts and something new and about environment, sustainability. We are all very eager to listen to you, sir. And on this occasion, I can just welcome all of you to this 11th Foundation Day. It has been a journey as narrated by others, and we want to take this journey forward. All of this is a teamwork starting from inception, today, and forward. And from the management side, I can just assure you that whatever help you require, as usual, we are always there for you to take this journey forward and keep our success going. Thank you.
Before we begin prize distribution, I would also like to welcome our Governing Council Vice President Ramesh Madpankar sir to on the dais to give a speech.
Thank you very much. Respected faculty members, esteemed guests, and dear students, we gather today to celebrate a significant milestone, the 11th Foundation Day of our beloved College of Architecture, Chembur. As we all mark this occasion, we reflect on our journey, achievements, and the vibrant community that has made our institution a hub of creativity and innovation. Over the past 11 years, our college has grown from strength to strength, nurturing talented individuals who have gone on to make their mark in the field of architecture. We take pride in our faculty who have guided and mentored our students with dedication and passion. As we look to the future, we remain committed to our mission of providing a world-class education that fosters creativity, critical thinking, and sustainability. We will continue to push boundaries, explore new ideas, and collaborate with industry industry partners to ensure our students are equipped with to meet the challenges of a rapidly changing world. To our students, I urge you to embrace this occasion as an opportunity to connect with our peers, learn from them each of others' experiences, and draw inspiration from them achievements and of our alumni. Remember, your time here is a chance to explore, experiment, and shape your future. Let us come together to celebrate our Foundation Day with enthusiasm and joy. Here's too many more years to excellence and innovation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite all the dignitaries on the stage for the prize distribution. Our Chief Guest, Architect Malak Singh Gill, our Governing Council Vice President, Mapankar Sir, Radhesham Pandey Sir, Deepak Chauhan Sir, Dr. Maya Parihar Malhotra Ma'am, Purnima Raje Ma'am, and Nagaraj Sir. We will now begin the academic award ceremony for BH and MR students. Let us begin with BH prizes. May I request our Governing Council Vice President Shri Ramesh Mapankar Sir to felicitate our winners. We begin with our fifth year prizes. First topper goes to Jagruti Durgavali. She is not there. Second topper goes to Noor Fatima. Design dissertation topper, which is a cumulative of SEM 9 and SEM 10 DD and ARD, is Noor Fatima. Design topper, which is a total of AD and allied, is a tie between Pushkar Kulkarni and Yashashri Parab. Technical topper, total of ABCM, TOS and ABS, is a tie between Deven Jadhav and Bhavesh Patare. Humanities and Theory Prize, which is a total of Architecture Theory, CP, PP and EVS, is Asta Deshmukh. Congratulations to all the fifth year prize winners. Thank you, sir. I now request our Governing Council Vice President, Shri Radhesham Pandey, sir, to felicitate our fourth year prize winners. First topper goes to Viraj More. He is not there. Second topper goes to Rugved More. Design subject topper Anika Dodandwar. Technical subject topper is Mohini Vairalkar. Theory subject topper is again Mohini Vairalkar. Congratulations to all the fourth year prize winners. Thank you, sir. I now request a governing council member Deepak Chauhan, sir, to felicitate third year prize winners. Start with first topper goes to Rashmi Sonavne. Second topper goes to Om Pagar. Design subject topper is Rashmi Sonavne. She has also received technical subject topper and theory subject topper. Please give her a big hand of applause. Congratulations to all the third year prize winners. Thank you, sir. I now request our governing council member Dr. Maya Parihar ma'am to felicitate our second year prize winners. We start with first topper goes to Bhavna Bhatt. Second topper goes to Muna Matre. Design subject topper is again Bhavna Bhatt. Technical subject topper is Bhavna Bhatt and theory subject topper is Bhavna Bhatt. Please give her a big hand of applause. Congratulations to all the second year prize winners. Thank you, ma'am. I now request architect Purnima Raji ma'am to felicitate our first year prize winners. First topper goes to Trisha Potam Shetty. Second topper goes to Saran Shivadekar. Please give her a big hand of applause. Design subject topper is Risha Potam Shetty. Technical subject topper and theory subject topper is Risha Potam Shetty. Congratulations to all the second year prize winners. Thank you, ma'am. Sorry, first year prize winners. We now come to MR's Project Management academic winners. May I request our ex-director, Architect Anil Nagaraj sir, to felicitate our second year MR's prize winners. First topper goes to Chetan Desai. Second topper goes to Sindhu Namwal. Third topper goes to Amish Shingadia. For dissertation, first topper goes to Rohan Ghaike. Please give him a big hand of applause. Second topper goes to Chetan Desai. Third topper goes to Sindhu Namwal. Congratulations to all the second year Masters prize winners. I now request our principal, Alka Tawri ma'am, to felicitate our first year winners of batch 22-23. First topper goes to Malay Matlapulkar. Second topper goes to Chetan Desai. Third topper goes to Prathamesh Khot, but I think he is not there. We now come to our first year Masters prize winners of batch 23-24. First topper goes to Shraddha Anjar Lekar. Second topper goes to Ganesh Dhotre. Third topper goes to Abyan Syed Mohammed. Congratulations to first year master students. Thank you, ma'am. Coming to the final segment, may I request Architect Malak Singh Gill to do the honors. And now in Biaj for the overall best performance in 5 years prize goes to Ekta Arolkar. I think she is not there. For masters, the overall best performance in 2 years goes to Chetan Desai. It's time for a special mention to congratulate Shraddha Anzarlikar for achieving second rank at university level in the first year MArch program. A big hand of applause for all the academic prize winners. Thank you, sir. Now, before we release our Avran theme, we will take a 2-minute break to set up the screen. I request all the dignitaries, they can take a seat. नहीं अभी ये बाद में ये सेटअप होने के बाद just call Soham to release the magazine. उसके बाद you can say कि नहीं I'll start ना. Should I wait? नहीं ठीक है स्क्रीन लगने दो ना.
Now we will release our magazine theme, and for that I would like to call upon Soham Patil from second year.
Good morning, respected principal ma'am, our respected founder principal sir, our honorable chief guest, and all our faculty members. Myself, Soham Patil from second year. I am the current year magazine head, and I would like to invite my team on stage. Shubham Kamble, Yash Patil, Riya Nevrekar, and Risha Shetty. So, the current year magazine theme would be Pragnance, where perception shapes reality and reality shapes perception. In a world filled with complexity, Pragnance offers a way to find simplicity and order, rooted in Gestalt psychology. Pragnance explains how our minds instinctively organize and group individual elements into unified wholes. This grouping helps us perceive the world more simply, whether it's recognizing a forest instead of just a collection of trees, or seeing a face rather than a random arrangement of features. In architecture, pregnance is evident in how building elements like windows, roofs, walls, and doors, along with services like plumbing, electricity, and ventilation, are combined to form cohesive structures. These elements, when thoughtfully grouped, create architectural form, the overall shape and structure of a building. These components align and interact to make the design not only functional but also visually harmonious. This year we explore Pragnance as our guiding theme, examining how the principle of grouping, whether in design, nature, or society, helps us see the world as a unified, meaningful whole. Thank you.
We now move on to the next part of celebrations of our Foundation Day. We believe that conversations have the power to rescue us from tumultuous times, and as Linda Lamb said, one good conversation can shift the direction of change forever. Yes, we are hinting towards our curated series of conversations called Samvad Shrunkala, which has hosted over 25 speakers across diverse fields, imparting their wisdom and exchanging ideas. Continuing this, we are excited to announce the 11th series of Samvad Shrunkala, where we open the platform to our esteemed speaker and the chief guest for our Foundation Day event, architect Malak Singh Gill.
Architect Malak Singh Sir graduated from Academy of Architecture in 2000. He worked with Padma Shri Laurie Baker at Crossword in Trivandrum, Kerala. He reinforced his learning by taking postgraduate courses with the Ecological Society of India Pune, Earth Institute Auroville, and working with local craftsmen all over India. He has carried forward Bakerjee's principle in his professional and teaching practice. This involves adapting to cultural building practices of the locals and negotiating their relationship with the physical environment. Over 20 years of practice, he has executed projects across Maharashtra and in Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Punjab, and Goa. Over 2 decades of sharing his experience with students as a visiting faculty at Academy of Architecture and the School of Environment and Architecture, he has inspired many young architects to adopt an environment-sensitive approach. He was recently awarded by the Indexcellence Award 2024 in the category of Sustainable Design by IFJ Plus and Nuremberg Messe, India. So, we are truly honored to have you as a speaker for Samvad Shrunkla and Foundation Day, and I would like to invite you to the stage for the session.
Hello, everybody. Am I audible? It is an honor to be invited here as an expert speaker on this occasion. I must first of all congratulate CTES College of Architecture, all the trustees, the managing committee, the council, the teachers, and the students on your foundation day. It is a very important landmark for all of you who have made this possible. It takes a lot of effort to see a growth of an institute over a decade. And I have been part of teaching at some institutions, and I've seen that difference within the way the colleges are growing, the way the culture at the college is growing. And I think all of you should take great pride in what your college has achieved. I am also honored to be speaking today at a platform where uh, I have my teachers who are here. Professor Anupita Surve has taught me and taught me very well. Professor Anil Nagrath has taught me. So it is a great honor to be here and speak in their presence. To thank them on Teachers' Day, to thank all of you, all my teachers, past, present, and future, for making it possible for me to contribute to the field in a small way. So I wish all of you a very happy Teachers' Day as well. I am speaking in a Samvad Shrinkhala. Is there some feedback from the mic? Do you like to? Yeah, thank you. Please feel free to do whatever alterations you want if there is any disturbance. Um, this is a Samvad Shrinkhala, and the topic was parallels in architecture, alternative practices. So again, I feel that it is very, very interesting that I have been invited to speak on this because it was just, maybe 25, 30 years back that this was not even a subject which was discussed. When I refer to uh, Professor Anuprita and Anil sir, they have, they have been amongst the few sensitive teachers who back then encouraged discussion on alternative ways of architectural practice. They encouraged a student like me who looked at environmental considerations while designing buildings. It was not a common practice. It was a very, very different, academic ecosystem at that time. In fact, let me tell you that I had to, I had to make Bombay's first such building to be able to have acceptance amongst the architectural fraternity. so that, let's say, quote unquote, sustainable, eco-friendly construction could be accepted in Mumbai. The discourse was that you cannot have exposed brick buildings in Mumbai. It rains a lot. And I was shocked to see that, you know, Bakerji, Laurie Baker, my mentor, was doing hundreds of such buildings in Kerala where it rains much more than it does in Bombay. And this was a kind of discourse in Bombay that you cannot, build exposed brick walls. So for me, the ultimate challenge was I'll have to build it and prove it that it is possible. Because the sustainability of the building, the durability of the building is not just based on the material or how you render the material, like namely you do not plaster, etc. But it depends on how you design the building itself. So how can materials be bracketed into not durable, not maintainable? I have seen reinforced concrete buildings rising up one year and the next year you have these worm-like figures drawn on them. You must have all seen them. All the tall buildings which are coming up, within a year you have all these vermiculite drawings all over the building. Those are leakages, right? But you can have a mud building designed well with the roof and not have a single leakage in that ever. So where does this narrative of materials being non-maintenance friendly or otherwise come from? I think it comes from the lack of experience of having worked in this domain. So I decided that I must generate that experience in this field, in this state or in this city myself. I must create the reference for young architects to say that, look, it is possible. Of course, I was lucky. I backed it up with the effort to go and learn from Bakerji in Trivandrum, worked with Cosford, and came back and started doing work as a regular architect, working in a firm which does, conventional architecture, interior design, and decided to wait for my chance. I must say that fortune favors the brave. I got that chance and I made Bombay's first building which incorporated Laurie Baker's techniques. That building got published and almost immediately within a year I was accepted, I was taken in as a visiting faculty member. This is the difference, or this is the impact which actually creating a precedent, actually making a reference architecture can make. We must research, we must prepare ourselves regardless of what opportunity lies in front of us. We must research, we must arm ourselves with data, with techniques, with skills, which should happen, not which would happen. If you decide on studying based on what is the scope of a certain thing, then let me assure you, scope or no scope, there will definitely not be any hope for change. So I decided to study and prepare myself for the architecture that should happen, not the architecture that could happen and that would happen. You may never have a guarantee for relevant work happening. You have to create that possibility. You have to push for it and make it happen. Which is why foundation days are so meaningful, because these are all, events of hope. We never know the entire scope. of what is going to happen. These are events of hope, and when 10 years are done, it speaks a lot about the hope which people had, the hard work that they put in it. So I'm standing here today only because of the hope which my teachers kept alive in me, the hard work which I put in, and then got rewarded with some success. I will be reflecting upon my work both as a professional, as a practitioner of making buildings, but also as a practitioner of making architects. I have been teaching for over 2 decades, and I can say with reasonable success. Many of the students whom I have taught are today very successful practitioners in the similar field. You may have heard of Design Jatra. Dhruang Hingmire and Priyanka Gunjikar from Pune. Dharti Hands was in Bombay, now is based in Nagpur. Many such students, they are basically, I have taught them and they have worked with me to gain experience and take up this field. And for me, it is the success of my teachers that my students are doing such wonderful work. I am talking about this because you will see what I have done. But it is important to understand the context in which this work was done. It was done to create a model, because I do believe that nothing, when it comes to inspiration, nothing works like success. It was important for me to make a successful practice if I wanted this kind of work to, spread. So I may personally be able to work from one corner of my bedroom. I still am able to make my entire drawings without using any computer, without using any complicated paraphernalia. I just need a graph paper and my pencil, and I can execute entire projects. I may not even need a calculator, forget a computer. That's what I've done for the initial decade and a half of my practice. Because one is, this was a new field, I had to establish the field. I had to create the precedent. When somebody asks, whether there is any such work done in Bombay before, I had to show my own work, because there was no other such work. So I have worked with such limited resources, not because I did not have the possibility, but I wanted to also have a sustainable mode of practice at any given time. And today, when I have a team of architects working with me, of interns working with me, the purpose is not because I need them for my practice. It's also so that there is a model of such practice which is seen and which is evident to students, that it is possible to have a successful commercial practice as well in this kind of field. So the idea is to have to kind of create a model. So I will now take you to my mentor, my inspiration, Laurie Baker. Can we have some of those lights put off, please, so that they can better focus on this and any other ambient light which may be disturbing them? Thank you. I think that's really helpful. Do you want those lights on you then? See if you can put them off. They can see better and focus better. Only if you promise me that you'll not go to sleep. I'll try my best to be very, very, alive and interesting. And within 5 minutes, I'm going to be talking to you, because this is Samvad, right? And there's no Samvad if one person is talking. I'm not here to lecture you only. I would like to further talk only based on questions which you may have. So the mic will be amongst you. right? The microphone will be passed to you, and you may ask questions, discuss things based on what you see. This is Bakerjee's list of principles. Uh, of course, you can see a model kind of construction which represents what is Laurie Baker typology. So my first slide is on Bakerjee's principles and his work. It's also makes sense on Teachers' Day that I must show his work. You can go through it and you can see how Bakerjee suggests these principles for any architect. You may also refer to this PowerPoint presentation after I have left in the following days, because this is on your computer. You can please copy this presentation and go through these notes in detail and see if it might be of any help and inspiration to you. So one tends to follow these principles and try as much as we can to imbibe them. And this was the first project which I did, my first project, also Bombay's first such project in Malad. It was interesting for me to do this because I could do it with conventional engineers and contractors of Mumbai, of a metropolitan city like Mumbai. Mind you, another teacher of mine, engineer Professor Suhas Chande, made it possible. So on Teachers' Day, I'm going to thank him along with all the other unnamed teachers, because he was the one who agreed. So he was my professor, and I was a kind of a notorious student because I would keep troubling him with all kinds of questions which are out of the textbook. And then when I told him, sir, we have to make Bombay's first filler slab, there was no precedent, there is no code, there is no NBC code. By the way, it has come in now, it is in the NBC. But there was no filler slab in the National Building Code. And Professor Chande had to rely on the structural calculations which I shared with him. He was willing to vet them, to check them for me and say that, okay, this sounds good, I will do this. So again, good teachers make so much of a difference in your life. I was able to do the first such lab because this was Bombay. Remember, I needed permissions for doing this kind of work, a structural certificate, and Suhas Chande sir helped me to do that. This just has a filler slab. It is reminiscent of Laurie Baker type of building. It has exposed brickwork, so it is cooler. The stone you see in this building over there is Malad stone. The building is also in Malad. The bricks are from Vajreshwari. Well, it was all that it was. So we tried to basically reduce the consumption of cement and steel as much as possible. We did a staircase, which is a completely self-supporting cantilever staircase. And a lot of things of salvaging old materials, recycled iron, recycled wood, and we were able to make this building. I face an interesting challenge when I got projects outside Mumbai. In Mumbai, I had, civil engineers, contractors who could make a technology, a technique system which Laurie Baker devised specifically for cities. So it was easy because you're just reworking, you're tweaking RCC and making it an RCC filler slab. You're tweaking a brick wall with cement mortar and not plastering it, right? So technologically, I could get it done from a city contractor. But now imagine how difficult it would have been to get this thing done in a rural context, because the skills of reinforced concrete, etc., were not very good. So that presented a problem, because now how am I going to practice, in rural Maharashtra? And this problem gave me an opportunity to revisit Laurie Baker's principles, not Laurie Baker's construction template. What he made famous as a construction template was buildings which use lesser cement and steel. Now, I had to do buildings without that kind of skilled person or that kind of labor or craftspersons. So I decided then to make use of the skills and construction knowledge which the rural Maharashtrian craftsperson knows. It was totally different from the Laurie Baker model. The principles were the same, to use local resources. But what were we doing by using local resources? We were also enabling or capacitating local people to have their own source of livelihood. So instead of having any kind of opposition from locals, you must have heard of this, if you work in a kind of semi-urban or rural area, you have some opposition from locals saying that आप बाहर से लोग ला रहे हैं और बाहर से मटेरियल ला रहे हैं, हमसे लीजिए, हमसे but then you have to say that आप तो ये बना ही नहीं सकते, तो हमें लाना ही पड़ेगा. So then there is some other kind of arrangement made with them where you kind of pay them something to let us work uninterrupted. Now I turned this whole equation on its head. I researched what they can do, what materials they know, what materials they can provide, and I took them on board. So you have buildings which not only have only locals making the entire building, but you also have all the materials which is only available locally. So although I had not seen this kind of building with Laurie Baker's firm, but this is exactly on those principles. And this was also a key to all those aspirants who was inspired by Bakerji at that time. But when they went back from Cosford to their, regions where they come from, they couldn't continue that kind of practice because they would have to train people and then, the buildings would be built and that would be very expensive. So here was a model in rural countryside where we made buildings with local laterite. This is near Goa, just before Goa. The entire building is made in mud mortar right from the foundation. There is no cement in this building. There is no steel in this building. And it was not a technological kind of pursuit. I often end up talking about this in my lectures that technology and the pursuit of technique is highly overrated. Okay, it is like if you understand the purpose of what you want to do, technology is very easy to access with the internet now. And my internet is the interconnected network with village craftspersons. I don't have to log in. I have to sit over a katta and have 2 cups of chai with them. I have to respect their culture. I have to go to their homes. I have to try and speak their language. I have to give them respect, make them comfortable with my presence, and explain to them that I mean only good. I do not want to take away land, take away their work opportunity. I want to involve them in the process and let us build these things together. So instead of opposition, I have the wholehearted love and support of the entire village. And then they helped me make these buildings. So much so that even the art is done by the local painters. And not just by the local painters, but the subject of the art is also local landscape. So there is tremendous pride and dignity. I wonder if this becomes agenda or criteria in design to retain pride and dignity amongst the people for whom you build, with whom you build. How about that becoming design parameter in your design brief? How about a parameter called keeping the economy of the project local and circular? How about a design parameter being keeping the ecology resilient and continuous, right? Are people in the center of our design concepts? Someone asked me, one of the clients, they asked me, what do we call your architecture? Because they have been looking at a lot of architecture online. They look for many architects and for a very prestigious project. And they used to type categories and they would find a lot of architects under those categories. But mine was a little difficult for them to define. And I said that I don't know what to call my practice, because it is not only about nature, it's not only about energy. My project centers around people, both the users, the beneficiaries, but also the participants who are building these places. And my concern is the long-term relation between these stakeholders. So I don't know what this style of architecture is called. This is a mud wall, not just mud plastered, but it's also made in mud, and that is a painting within the wall. In the same house, which is at Kodal, these are the verandas facing the sea. This is a similar project done in the same kind of spirit of using local. So that I will not repeat my stress on having local participation. That is there in every project. The use of material, there will be some buildings like this one which do not have any cement or steel. There might be buildings which have some cement and steel, because that is not the narrative to eliminate any material. The idea is to use materials only where they are required in terms of their strength or their energy consumption. If you need cement and steel for a particular thing, please use it. But first evaluate, is the pollution which it causes, is the health concerns which come with that material, is the heat which it generates really required for this particular project? If not, then eliminate it. So this project, you will be able to see the making of these arches. These arches being made, and you can see the mud mortar in the entire building. Everything from the foundation is in mud. Even the PCC which you do under the tiles at the plinth level is not a PCC, it is a BBC. It's a brickbat coba with lime mortar. So we tried our best to eliminate as much as possible. We did tile, of course the tiling was done with cement. That's the building from inside. This is near Kamshet. It remains cool most of the year, but it does get very hot in summers, and it remains very cool. The inside of the house remains very cool. It has a terracotta floor, a timber roof, timber first floor, verandas, bedrooms with bay windows where it's inbuilt furniture, full height kind of doors to walk out into the garden outside, escape routes for hot air, cross ventilation. Yeah, bathrooms with all the creature comforts which you may need in today's times, just that they are kind of accessorized or adapted to the particular setting, particular design language of the house. a first floor of the same building with a wooden floor. You can walk out of that space into the balcony, and this is the balcony. And that house which you saw was this house. It's very interesting to see the roofs of both, and this is the building I will show you next. This was designed as a house, and the client felt that it looks pretty nice, so let's make some money out of it. So she decided to give it for as a weekend getaway. But then, as the guests kept increasing, she felt that she kept getting pushed out of the house. So she thought that she could probably make another building where she could stay, or this is where she could stay, and this would be let out. So this next building was commissioned as a purely commercial venture. What is interesting, needless to say that this is all built by locals, right, who live around. You can see that the materials are the same. You can see that the response to the sun, the wind, the rain is all the same. Only that, also very, figuratively, this was called as latitude, and we call this as longitude because it was perpendicular. But mainly this was done like this, so that the main view from this house of the water body cannot be disturbed. So it was done on one side, but that created a different kind of problem because this land is sloping down towards the water. So when we make a slim building which is sloping down, you have a challenge, and this is how we met that challenge. What you will see is, see, the materiality is totally same. It is done by the same people, all right? But what you will see is how the brief of the building, the site location, the response to the slope forced us to change the visual grammar of the building. So, it would be just a railway compartment if I did not work on the repetitive form of arches. It would just be a veranda, bedroom, kitchen, bedroom, veranda, bedroom, veranda. That's all that this building is. Now, what do you do? How do you deal with it? There was a slope, so you kind of split this up. You took a staircase where you go up and then you go down, and then you had to play with what you have. And since it was the entire building was just a series of rooms, and I got walls which are like in one line, I decided to span the openings with arches. And while working that out, we just got a language. But what is interesting is to see that they are the same materials. They respond similarly to the rain, to the climate. It's just that the terrain is sloping and the brief has changed, that it's an out and out commercial building plan for giving out for tourism, and that we had to deal with a very slim kind of very slim thing. It's just series of rooms with one veranda attached. That's it. So one deals with it, and so when the brief changes, you change a lot of things, right? That's it. So this is that much different from the previous building. Everything else remains the same. A pool was added because it was for commercial use. And there is a similar project in the same lines, on the same lines. And I will rush through this because it's the same typology. It has been built with a commercial angle, but nothing changes in everything else that I told you in terms of sustainability. Everything is local. What should stand out here is the rigor of course, there is reasonable amount of environmental concerns, in the material choices, in the pollution levels, but in the way the building is designed, that the buildings remain very cool. But you must appreciate that there was Sanjay sir to help me in Mumbai in my first project, but there was no one to do my structural design for all these projects. So we decided to learn from structural engineers. There's still no one who designed it for us. Uh, we invited some structural engineers to stay over with us in Mumbai. We organized a trip. We showed them, we took them to all our projects and explained how we do our architecture. And in return, they offered to help us with whatever building codes are relevant probably to us in timber. They just exposed us to all the books and all the codes. And we sat down and designed all our buildings using those codes ourselves. Mind you, although my structural engineer professor did not design these buildings for me, but I could design it because of the notes and the exercises I had done with him in class. Let me tell you, I had the honor of teaching with this professor later on as a co-teacher at School of Environment and Architecture. And after he witnessed my classes, it was poetic that he requested me to share my notes, which I had taken in his class 25 years back with him. Because even he was no longer teaching these things, right? All I'm saying is, when you do what you want to do because you believe in it, you do not put a value to what it is going to have in the future. You should not do a deal that this is what is going to help me, therefore I'm going to. If you think that that is relevant, that should happen, invest your energy in that. Invest your faith in that. Because nobody else but you is going to make it possible and make it, relevant in the future. Right? So buildings, more buildings. I'm going to run you through this very quickly because I want to have discussions with you. This is Laurie Baker's sketch on what is a core house. It's very interesting. We all go and see rural architecture. We look at buildings in the villages, but the way Bakerji understood them is this. So a village house learns from nature. People learn from nature. So like a fruit is a design of a plant to spread its seeds. A fruit is a design of a plant to spread its seeds. You know how that happens? Because you love to eat fruit, you will take the fruit, you will eat it, and wherever you go, you will throw the seeds. That is how that plant, that tree, enables that its gene pool survives in the future. Even a plant knows that. Does that. This is not mythology. This is science. The villagers know that. Somehow this science escapes the understanding of what we are mostly doing in schools, architecture schools, and designing for the future. This is the design for this future. And this is only 50% of the future. You can build all around that core. You can have at least 9 rooms, 6, 7 rooms all around this core building. When you make the first house, this design allows that. That is the seed in the apple. That's what Bakerji learned and appreciated in rural architecture, and which is why. So that's what I learned from Bakerji, and therefore from villages, and then when I'm doing projects like these, of course, we have people from all walks of life coming to learn from this process. And you will see that it was for an NGO where there were tribals who were building that building. They needed that building. You can see the carpenter with a glass of tea in his hand. That was the only instruction which was given. There was no drawing. This is all for the clients, the people who are funding the project. All this. This was the only instruction given to the carpenter. And within 1.5 months, that roof was done. Because that roof, the parts of the roof, all that timber is basically was this tree just a month back. The idea is to build on what is already known to these people. How much money do we save? How much material do we save? How much do we save of the environment? They protect the forest. They ensure that these forests and these trees are regenerated. So they have the right, they have the knowledge to take from this forest because these plants are growing. And they just use the scale, they measure that member and they measure the tree and they will cut the tree. All right, and it is so easy to do it. For the walls, since we were obviously not using cement, it's expensive, it's bad for the environment, so we made walls in mud mortar with bricks only at intervals. What you see here is a cob wall, COB, which is the only mud wall, a wall made with only mud. So, and because this was the first time we were doing a cob wall, which is only 9 inches thick, we of course put brick as kind of supports in between, but also added stone slabs as stiffeners for a thin wall. So those stone slabs were the shelves of this storeroom. This is how the cob wall was done. This is how these brick pillars were there, and of course, so there's I can talk about the next project, but before that, I would like to invite some questions. If I can ask Anupita ji, what is the time? It's 7 to 1 now. How much time do we have collectively with Q&A? Okay, so I just don't want to disturb any kind of schedules. So if we can have the mic with the teachers and students, we would. I would like to invite any comments or questions up till this stage, which you may have. Please feel free to ask. The discussion will be more productive. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, you can ask from wherever you are, and you kind of keep passing the mic around, because you don't have to come. Go ahead. Please ask.
Sir, so the examples which you showed, they were made up of stone bricks and wood, which is the sustainable materials which you are using. But the only drawback over here was the height and the long spans which can be achieved by other materials. So is that like a limitation, or are there other ways which can be worked on ahead so that we can use sustainable materials like these to further uh, like develop on places where there is lack of land availability over there?
Right. Very good question. So, see, like I said initially, that the purpose for which you are using the materials should be held as the most important parameter. If it is a tall building, it's a multi-storied building, you can please go ahead with steel and concrete. All right. But if it is a low-rise building like a G+1, G+2, you may not use concrete. And if you do not have large span, the basis for my practice is that as per the 2011 survey, Census of India, 60% of the buildings are still small low-rise buildings in villages and small towns. 50% of the tall buildings in a city like Mumbai are lying vacant. You know what that means? That the belief that building high-rise tall buildings is absolutely necessary and it is imperative is wrong. These are being built for financial profit. So 70% of Mumbaikars are still living in informal buildings. And you know the quality of rooms or houses which they get when they are put into the slum towers? Do you know the quality? Matchbox building is an understatement. You should see M East Ward. It has the worst health index in the world. Worst health index. You must see the slum redevelopment buildings in those areas, which are the example of your tall buildings. Slums are much more habitable than the solutions which are given as tall buildings. So I have answered your first question. When you need it, you must make with RCC and steel. Within that, use RCC and steel responsibly. So filler slab is one example. If the intent was right amongst builders, developers and architects who are making tall buildings, all your tall buildings would have waffle slabs or filler slabs. There is not a single building which has filler slabs. Why? It is because there is a lack of sensitivity. It's not even awareness anymore. Everyone knows. But there is a lack of sensitivity. That is not a mandate to say, encourage buyers that we are making a tall multi-story skyscraper which is environmentally sensitive. This is not a selling point. For that, you need visionaries, you need architects to push this agenda through to developers and builders. I'm trying in my own way. What is the problem is that the attitude is missing. You can design sustainably even with RCC and steel. The issue is that even in 2030, 50% of India's population is still going to be in villages. Do you know how many cities India has? The number doesn't go beyond 1,000. Do you know how many villages India has? 6.5 lakh. 6.5 lakh villages. And still our concern is how we will make column-free, large-span buildings and tall skyscrapers. My practice has risen from the concern that, and your question is very right. This is the question of most people, most of the students, even architects. It's very good that you ask this question because this thing needs to be addressed and discussed. Who is doing research in small town architecture, in village architecture? Who is doing research on low-rise buildings? Where that is 60% of the built environment, almost 2 billion square meters is going to be built in the next 5 years, and out of that 50% or more is in small towns. So who is working on that? It's very interesting that this question comes, and therefore I have a very well prepared answer to it, because it's been 20 years answering this question. And it's very, very interesting. And I keep getting more and more data to support my argument. You see, so my focus is on the larger population and building area, not on these small cities in which a handful of cities and usme bhi 50% is lying vacant just to take money from you. Oh, it's not my concern. Very small concern. My concern with those buildings is that if they are also done sensibly, there is a process of enculturation, where however less the city architect knows, however bad is training, the village person and craftsperson always looks up to them and thinks that this is an educated person. The difference between education and literacy is not discernible very easily for the larger population of our country. They think if you are literate, you are educated. That is not true, right? So I know a lot of rural craftspersons. Even if now they are in the cities, they are much more educated than architects and engineers. So therefore, they look up to the cities and their model of construction, and they have become status symbols because they cost more and they are seen in media. So the problem is that they try to copy those and they make the same thing in villages. Even if they are roasting in those hot environments, in those hot buildings, for ground plus one, ground plus two, make an RCC building, they are roasting in it, completely roasting. And they don't know how much money they have spent, because they don't know how much time the contractor will take, because the contractor doesn't know how to do concreting properly. They don't know how much money they are going to spend. They are pathetically unhealthy in that building, but they will build that. So my concern with city architecture and urbanization of small towns also is this, that if there are sensible models of buildings which use concrete and steel also, then at least they will create sensible models for people to aspire for and copy. So definitely my interest in urban or city projects is this, that they can be. So therefore, a small building, if it may be, my first project in Bombay displays all the characters or techniques which can be used in multi-storied buildings. So also, just because where it is not the issue, you must know that in Yemen there are entire cities of 7-story tall only mud buildings. Bakerji has made 7-story tall library building in Kerala, in Trivandrum, the CTES. So, but you should see the way concrete is used in that. It is still unplastered building. So the issue is not, like I said, the avoidance or absence of materials. It is the way we choose and apply materials only based on their criticality and the kind of damage or environmental damage that they create. Yes, any more questions?
Yes, sir, I have a question. Sir,
Yes.
here.
Can you put your hand up?
Yeah, sir.
Hi.
Sir, so first one is a personal question. So you introduced that you do your designs with graph paper and pencil. So it would be good if you could shed some light on this where we are using CAD. And architectural question is, I saw most of your plans were symmetrical. So what was the reason behind it? And some elevations were asymmetrical. So I believe it's a structural integration. And the last question is, so in a place where you
Can I answer two, please? It will become very difficult to remember three.
Yeah.
You can ask me after that.
Okay.
Thank you so much. any and all of these buildings, if you look at in this building, this I showed you the core house, the Apple concept, the core house. This central square is that core, and all these are verandas. So this is the square which is tall, and all these on all four sides of that are the verandas. I'm taking you back to that drawing so you can understand that central core, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all around that central core. So if you look at this building in plan, okay, this is not just this building, but this is one of at least 10 million buildings which you have in India. Now, another thing you should notice about this is when you look at this, do you see a multiplicity of a grid? Why is that grid? Why do you see a particular size and different kind of modifications of that particular size? So this is a size of say maybe 2.5 meters by 2.5. Here you'll have 2.5 by 5, 2.5 by 5, 2.5 by 5. Why do you see a grid? This grid is because one commits to the material with which one will design. The material I have committed to is timber, which is sustainable, which can be grown back, which has 250 times lesser embodied energy than aluminium. 250 times lesser energy than aluminium, embodied energy. I have committed to this material, but this material comes from trees, and I have decided to not cut very big trees to make a building. So this has a length. There is an economical length for me to get a spanning member of a roof, and that length decides my grid. You understand? I have committed that I am only going to use sustainable materials. I have committed that I will use them of a certain cross section, and therefore they will have only a certain length or a multiple of that length, where I will then treat it appropriately. Therefore, I can make this drawing on a grid paper. I can finish 7, 8 sections, 4 elevations, 3 plans of an entire house on an A3 size grid. One A3 is all I give to my team, and the project is as good as a working drawing. Of course, they do it on AutoCAD because that has to be communicated, changed in the future if there's anything, and for permissions, etc. The design is finished, and I can share it with Anuprita ma'am, that one A3 size thing. I'll share the soft copy of scanned thing, and she can share it with you. 7 sections, 4 elevations, 3 plans, everything. The project is finished. Of course, there have been maybe 20 A3 sheets before that to come to that clarity, and it addresses everything: cost, the climate aspect, construction, anthropometry, aesthetics, and remember the most important thing. It's something as interesting as this. Our commitment to the locals is so interesting that when how we decide angles, we do not, of course the angle of the roof has a limitation for, it has to be steep enough to make sure that water runs off. It creates enough height to kind of stop the heat from coming in. Of course, since you're using Mangalore tiles, you need a certain angle. So all these kind of binding things are there on what the angle should be. But should it be 34, 37, 35? It is none of these. It is an angle which a carpenter, when he's constructing on site, he should be able to measure, say 4 like this and 3 like this. Anything 4 feet or any multiple of 4 in the horizontal direction and multiple of 3 in the vertical direction. He is only going to be able to do that. He is not going to be able to do any angle over there with a protractor. And I don't feel it is necessary. So why don't I just give him 4-3 ka angle hai or 3-2 ka angle hai. And that 3-2, 4-2 I can do on my grid paper. I don't need even a scale to finish the entire drawing. It's quite beautiful. If you all want, if there's any kind of premise for that, I can come and take one session with you all on how to draw a building on graph, and you all can participate in that. It'll be like a one-day workshop, and you'll have fun, design some buildings like that, and see if it helps. Of course, that's because I have committed to putting this kind of constraint on myself, that I will only use materials which are sustainable, and therefore they come with their material structural integrity. So there will be a cross section, and according to that cross section there will be a length. Therefore I can do this. Now when I'm doing an RCC building, the same logic does not apply. So then it's a little bit, it's different. So okay, so yeah, then sorry, the second question, see, I told you I'll forget second question. What is the second question?
Yes, sir. You showed us a house which you had put for commercial use. So it had a roof which was symmetrical, but I now understand that roof is like symmetrical, but the interior is different. Okay. Yes, sir, I got it now.
Symmetry. Very good question. See, this is also symmetrical, right? So you will have a lot of projects which are symmetrical and some which are not. If you look at this project, in the plan, this is not symmetrical. Okay. Within this project, which you saw, 2 buildings together, latitude and longitude, this is symmetrical, this is not symmetrical. Very interesting. If I have a flat land, and if it is possible with a functional circulation, etc., structurally I will prefer to have a symmetrical building. This is a flat part of this entire land. Symmetry is not just a function of aesthetic. Symmetry is also depictive of balance. You understand the word? This is balance. Right now, we are symmetrical in this way, not symmetrical in the other way. But because we are symmetrical like this, we have balance. Clear? A building is no different. In terms of seismic movements and any kind of activity, when a building moves, if it has a balanced loading, it will always perform better. So, like I said, if it allows me, if circulation, planning, and the site allows me, then I will go for a symmetrical building. But it is not a kind of sacred rule that it will be like that. The moment the site goes sloping, I change the rule. Because what happens now, the balance of the building becomes different. If you see, my building is still responding to the slope. Do you see this? Do you see the buttresses of my building going down? To counter the additional load over here, the structural loading is largely, when it is not in materials like RCC, it is largely visual. It is quite visual. You can visually see load distribution. And that is one part which I also enjoy and think about it as a psychological kind of, communication with the users of the space, where if they see a building in which they can where the structural loading system, the transfer of loads, the force directions are visible, it may generate a different level of, let's say, or a different psychological state than a building which does not make these dynamics evident. Okay, and you can clearly understand what materials do it and what do not. So in this case, the loading and the massing is extremely visual. You can understand, and that is how the design has been done. So symmetry plays no part, because the purpose of symmetry was balance and stability. So if asymmetry gives me that, I will do it. Symmetry is therefore only a kind of indicator of if there are certain situations, then you can be symmetrical, right? Question answered? Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a
Yes, please.
Firstly, I congratulate you for doing such landmark projects and such impressive work. I'm sure you're aware of Awas Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. We just talked about people in the villages, craftsmen in the villages copying what we do in urban areas. So if you know this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, it looks for permanent house, so-called, in code. I don't know whether your buildings will fall in that Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana as a permanent building, because most of the materials you use is not permanent according to the government. So you have another challenge to fight that. I mean, maybe you take that as a future challenge. I just want your comment on it.
Yeah, so my students have already worked on that project, on an Awas Yojana project. They have made very detailed recommendations about what is a better approach to the Maharashtra government. They have made these. It's of course, but it's a central government scheme. You know that what happens is, if you want to use the sensible or the appropriate tools, materials, and construction system, the intention of that project should also be sensible and appropriate. If you complain about a gift which was given to you, about the quality of the gift given to you and the material that this is so cheap and this is so bad for touch, this is so bad for health, the general understanding is it is free, don't complain, just keep it. Anyways, you are not paying for it. This is the Awas Yojana. The problem is, there was another kind of anecdote from a very famous novel where somebody offers somebody some things free uh, to change their allegiance to them, and that person says that in response, that you are telling me that you will carry me on your head after cutting my hands and legs. It doesn't make sense. Awas Yojana is not concerned with people's betterment. They are trying to fool us by saying that Awas is the building. Awas, for really Awas, is the entire resource catchment which gives you all the materials for that Awas. The real Awas is the conservation of the knowledge systems which people have about building their Awas, about sourcing these materials and being able to put them back into the environment. That is real Awas. The Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is not concerned with saving this Awas. They are only concerned with selling you free gifts which you remember while voting. So how can you tell them to use appropriate materials, sensible technology for a purpose which is not appropriate? Free anything is never going to have any resilience or sustainability. People, you have a problem of, we have the highest unemployment rate since our independence today. People are free, you give them work, provide the right materials, protect their resource catchment, their forests, and they will build their houses. They can, how people build their houses, they build it as a community. They come together and build their houses. Each builds the other's houses. So where is the role of the contractor in this? But this entire scheme, like many schemes, and the materials which have been permanent building, have been mooted for various purposes. One is obviously to get that kind of, election benefit. The other is to benefit all the product producers of the materials which make the building permanent. And then to the large contractor network which makes these permanent buildings. Wherever you go to see the Awas Yojana, right from like allocating the building to allocating the contractor is decided by the central agency, the panchayat or whatever. They decide who will build. If you say that give me this money, I will get it built, they are not going to allow. It has to be done by the contractor nominated by them. They do it under the kind of thing of quality control and the standards given by the government, that it has to be pakka, otherwise but that's how it is. So therefore there are solutions, but like I said, every tall building in Bombay should have filler slab. You save 40% or 25% concrete and 12% steel, but they don't. Who's concerned about saving material, environment, reducing cost of buyer? They are not interested. Do you know what is the cost of, if you buy a flat today in Bombay? Okay, if you buy a flat in Bombay which uses sustainable construction methods, you know what difference it will make to the cost at which you buy? Not even 1%. Not even 1%. The building is constructed at 1000 rupees, 1200 rupees, 1500 rupees per square foot. You know at what price you are buying, no? 25,000 rupees per square foot. So at 1500 rupees, if I make it 1200 or 1300 or 1400, what difference does it make to the 25,000 rupees per square foot at which you are buying? The game in cities is not about, about being sustainable in this way. It is about the overheads and the money which flows through the overheads that people are interested in. So even for the sake of environmental kind of propagation, also they are not interested in doing environmental building. So cost is not the issue, environment is not the issue, thermal comfort is not issue. So that's the same thing why, in Awas Yojana you will not have this. I mean, until, the government mandates and changes. And therefore, like we said, that we must basically our role, and therefore my students are not just doing architecture, they are into village politics, they are getting into self-help groups, they are into farming. Until you enter that realm of administrative services, politics, you are going to not be able to make a difference. So you need people in all the parts of that society, in all parts of society. And when the like-minded people are there in all those quarters, then at the same time, that is when you will have some kind of movement. So until then, you have to prepare as an architect, that when you have these kind of a kind of ecosystem which is ready to support that, you should be prepared with your know-how, with your technical thing. And as much as possible, I feel, work cross-disciplinary, understand politics, get into administration and all these aspects. It will probably be better rather than expecting from others and governments. You have to be the government, you have to be the administrator. Then it will happen. I know a lot of administrators who are very sensitive about building construction, civil engineering, and architecture. I was talking at one such forum, civil engineers in Khargon district in Madhya Pradesh, and the collector was sitting there. I finished the talk, I stepped down, he made one request, "Aap abhi kya kar rahe hain?" I said, "Kya kar rahe hain?" He was the chief guest. So I said, "Aap bataiye." So he said, "Aap mere saath baithiye." He sat in his car, drove for maybe 15 kilometers, went to a site where there was a mass housing scheme. At least 100 houses were being built. He showed me the project and he said, "मुझे इस सब घर के ऊपर फिलर स्लैब चाहिए, आप कर सकते हैं क्या?" Said, "कर सकते हैं." So there is a collector who is interested in sustainable architecture. Why can't architect become interested in administrative, financial services and politics? So, and that entire colony got pillar snapped. I came back to Bombay, worked out the structure, sent it to them, and they executed. इतना भर में इतना difference हो जाता है. You have to have hope. And why was I going to Khargon to talk to civil engineers? Because it is supposed to happen, not because you expect that something will work out. That is never going to happen. I had such interesting questions from engineers, they're technical guys. So they asked me such difficult questions, and it was quite a challenge. But, you have to take up these challenges, and that's when it will make a difference. I was just like you out there, sitting, listening to lectures, being told by my teachers and my colleagues कि तुझे तो काम ही नहीं मिलेगा, क्लाइंट ही नहीं है, तो हाथ से क्या काम कर रहे हैं? तो अभी तो टाइम अब 25-30 years back, future is computers. Do you know when the house gets complete, not just house, whatever I do gets complete, you know what is the most prized possessions that my clients have? They want the model of the house and my hand-drawn sketches as their housewarming gift. That is framed in their houses. Point is that do your own research, back yourself, and don't worry too much about what you don't believe in. There's enough of that. People will keep talking. If you believe in something, back yourself. Yeah, so there's a lot more, but I think we should stop because we can go on. I'm going to tell you very briefly, very quickly, that I have shared some conceptual notes over here. Okay. Which will be nice for a theoretical understanding. I'm just going to rush through all this so that it was to come if we had time. This is all some rural projects where the core house concept was used. This is another project. This was the house. and the client wanted to break it because he told the village contractor, make me a village house. And this is what that village contractor made. So then he told me break it. This is the typical village house there. And I made this on the same land by reusing all the materials and more. And of course, this is the building from inside. Needless to say, local tribal team working on it. These does not only not have cement, but also the bricks are not burnt bricks. There's a long story to that, but I'm not telling you now because I think it needs another session. And very quickly, I will now, yeah. So these diagrams might be very, very helpful for you, okay? And I'm saying this because what I have been reading of architect Amos Rappaport. You must read up Amos Rappaport, House Form and Culture. All right. And what I have learned from this is basically put in here in a nutshell, and combining that with some
Knowledge and contributing to our understanding of this important field. I now request our principal, Professor Alka Tawri ma'am, to give architect Malak Singh Gill a token of appreciation.
I would now call upon Professor Rohan Jadhav sir to give vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, all. So, we are at the end of Foundation Day. We take this opportunity to thank architect Malak Singh. Thank you for gracing the occasion today and sharing your immense knowledge and experience with all of us. We thank the management for always being there to encourage us. Our principal, Professor Alka Tawri ma'am, for guiding us. Our student council for the immense hard work in putting up this event together. We thank all our students for their enthusiasm. A special thanks to Shweta ma'am, Umesh sir, and our entire team of faculty members, Mantri ma'am, our admin staff, and most of all, Sagar and Parshu Dada, who have immensely helped us execute this. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Happy Teachers' Day. Students, to go back to your classes, classes will resume.